Welcome to the November 25th, 2018 edition of the BitcoinNews.com Daily Podcast, where we cover the biggest stories in Bitcoin, blockchain, and cryptocurrency every single day. You can count on me being here. This is your host, Space Marine, live from somewhere in space and somewhere in time. Jumping right into the market analysis. Yeah, it's been a rough market. That's what most of the show is centered around, and most of the news is centered around. For about since November 14th. Until November 14th, everything was status quo. We had about $6,500 Bitcoins, and then Bitcoin Cash forked, and that's still an evolving situation actually, and Bitcoin went down to $5,500, and then BACT delayed their physical Bitcoin futures, and the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, started enforcing severe civil penalties against initial coin offerings. So severe they could probably bankrupt any initial coin offering that they choose. And so the ICO space is in a frenzy. And so Bitcoin dropped from that $5,500 level to the $4,500 level. And then along the way, somewhere in there between BACT and the SEC, it dropped again. It seemed like on Black Friday it dropped lower. So right after Thanksgiving ended in the United States, when everyone started buying things, Christmas and Hanukkah, it dropped to like 4,200, and then it had the farthest drop so far. It went down to just below $3,500 on Bitstamp. The lowest one is $3,475 so far during this nuclear bear market, and it crawled back up. So on the 25th is when it, well, yeah, that's what the show is for. I'm recording this on the earliest morning of the 26th, just so now we have the full view of what happened on the 25th. So on the 25th, it wasn't the best day. It went as low as $3,475, and it crawled back up towards midnight. And now here in the early morning of the 26th, it's going back down again, and went as high as $4,100 actually. So it was a little bit of a rally. Some people call it a dead cat bounce. I don't know why. I don't like that term. I like cats. So now it's below $3,800 again, and going down. There's some bad little red candles this morning, heading downwards. And the total cryptocurrency market cap is down to $124 billion. As I started getting ready for this show, it dropped from like 126 to 124. And so the market was actually up, and now it's like really mixed. So it was up across the board, and now it's mixed across the board. And Ethereum's one of the coins this morning that's actually negative for the 24-hour period. Like Bitcoin's at positive 0.13%. Like it had some gains, like I just said, and now it's erased the gains going back down. Ethereum's at $110. And yeah, I'll just mention the first story with Ethereum. So Arthur Hayes in August 2018, August of this year, predicted that Ethereum would be a double-digit shitcoin. And that was right when he added Ethereum derivatives trading to BitMEX. BitMEX is the largest cryptocurrency derivatives trading hub in the world. They have billions of dollars of derivatives traded per day, and they can leverage up to 100x short or long. So they have the, like, let's say there's any bad news. It's kind of like, let's say Ethereum's swimming at the beach, and Ethereum's a person, and Ethereum is swimming at the beach, and then it cuts its foot on a rock or a seashell, and then a bunch of sharks eat it. So all the sharks are the BitMEX traders shorting 100x. So whenever there's a little bad news for Ethereum, or even real bad news, it gets magnified like 100x. So Ethereum's like, it was $300 when it was added to BitMEX, and now it's like, it dropped below 100 just for a brief moment, but I think it's probably going back below 100. Ethereum has just been on a real harsh downtrend. Bitcoin has been too, obviously, but Ethereum's declining even more than Bitcoin. So currently the Ethereum market cap's $11.4 billion and heading downwards. And Ripple is up a little bit, but it's still down compared to when I did it on the last show. So it's at 35.7 cents, $14.3 billion market cap. And also, yeah, Bitcoin's market cap is $67 billion. So Bitcoin's market cap is way, way, way down. There was altcoins with a higher market cap than Bitcoin earlier this year. And of course, Bitcoin's market cap was a lot higher. It was like an order of magnitude higher than this. Well, no, not an order of magnitude. That's a 10 times. It wasn't 10 times higher, but it was a lot higher. So Ripple's number 2 at 14.3 billion. That's another thing to note. Ethereum was the number 2 cryptocurrency throughout all of like 2018, and now it's at number 3, and it's way behind Ripple. So Ethereum's like $3 billion behind Ripple. That gap has closed. It was like $4 billion on the last show. Bitcoin Cash has gotten a little more contentious. I thought maybe SV was going to die out. And remember, it split into ABC and SV on the 14th. That's what initiated this crypto-wide market crash. All the uncertainty and fighting in Bitcoin Cash. And SV is actually rallying. It's up like 50%. And so ABC's at $185, and then SV's at $105. So who knows what's going to happen there. It's possible SV could pass ABC. And so they already declared ABC to be Bitcoin Cash, and that might have been a premature decision. Because what happens if Bitcoin Cash SV like exceeds Bitcoin Cash ABC's price? Will they flip the tickers again? What's going on here? I'm not going to go too much into that. I think it's nebulous. The total Bitcoin Cash market cap is like less than $5 billion, but it's up a lot because SV rallied. EOS, the number one ICO in history, it's down, or even before the markets really started declining. When I started recording this show, EOS was down. EOS has just been consistently down since it went public, and it has less than a $3 billion market cap now. And Stellar and EOS have been kind of competing for 5th and 6th place. And so yeah, Stellar's at $2.8 billion, and Stellar has not really been doing that good either. It's been declining a lot, and the EOS has been declining a lot. So that battle for 5th and 6th place is kind of like who's going to lose the least, because they're both kind of losing right now. Tether's market cap has exceeded $1.8 billion again, but they're still at 98.5 cents. So despite Tether not being quite stable, people are selling it below $1 consistently, and that it's been volatile. It's very volatile when you look at the price chart. So they've actually issued more Tether. So despite Tether being below $1, that's become the new normal, and people seem to be okay with that because they issued some more Tether. Litecoin's below $30. It went up a couple of percent before the market started declining, like right now. Like literally as I'm doing this show, literally right now, Bitcoin has went from $3,900 to like $3,700. It's at $3,720 right now. So it's a pretty significant market cap drop. And yeah, I'm going to refresh this CoinMarketCap page to show how it changes. It dropped $1 billion while I'm doing this market cap analysis. That just shows how fast the crypto market can change and how volatile it is. Yeah, it's dropping by the minute right now. Litecoin's always going to be around. It's the number one script coin. And just like Litecoin's always going to be around, we'll jump down the list. Dogecoin will always be around too. It's at $250,000 market cap. That's not much compared to the big coins. But Dogecoin has a really healthy community. It's popular among miners because when you mine Dogecoin, you can do it at home on a personal computer, and you'll get entire Dogecoins when you mine. It might take a whole day to get like a few Dogecoins, or maybe even just 1 or 2 Dogecoins, but at least you get entire coins. And it's a popular cryptocurrency. Reddit Dogecoin is still pretty popular and healthy. And they're down a little, but I don't think the price really impacts the Dogecoin community too much. In fact, if it went lower, that would make them happy because they could have more Dogecoins. Literally, that's how it is. It's not really about let's make a ton of money. It's about like let's just have fun with Dogecoin. So I like Dogecoin. Cardano's an ICO platform that's kind of like Ethereum. They say they're like the scientific version of Ethereum. Maybe I'm just putting that too generally, but that's what I read when I tried doing some research on them. They're down below $1 billion market cap. So Cardano just went below $1 billion recently, but now it's at like already 920 million. Monero was solidly way above $1 billion before, but now it's less than $55, and the market cap's at $907 million. Monero's down a lot today, even before the rest of the market started declining. And when Bitcoin goes down, altcoins, at least some of the altcoins, tend to go down way harder than Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, now it's looking on CoinMarketCap, is down 0.5%. Monero's down like 4%. So Tron is supposed to be like kind of like a Netflix or something like that, or like a... Well, they bought like a torrenting. They bought BitTorrent, and they're supposed to be sharing like media content on there. I don't think it's had much of a use case yet. So the market cap is below $800 million, and they've just been consistently shedding money, like most of the altcoins. Dash is down to $744 million. This is another coin that was solidly way above $1 billion not that long ago. And Dash is now at $88. And IOTA, the number one DAG coin, is down 7%. IOTA has not been doing good. They're down to $730 million. IOTA was a lot bigger before because it was really like the top Internet of Things cryptocurrency, and also a great cryptocurrency for storing data because that's how directed acyclic graphs, that's what they're optimal for. but it's been going down a lot harder than the other cryptos. So like all the other cryptos use a typical blockchain, IOTA does not, and it's kind of falling out of grace here. I can keep going down the list. Ethereum Classic's at $4.40, and Tezos, another ICO, is actually up 5% today. VeChain down 2%, way down there. And then there's 0x was added to Coinbase. Every time I look at 0x, it's down. It's at $190 million market cap now. And then it's jumped down to Basic Attention Token at $161 million market cap. And that was another one added to Coinbase, and they haven't been doing good since they got added. And then there's USD Coin, which is the latest coin to get added to Coinbase. That's a stable coin though, and it's at $170 million circulation, about probably like $169 or $168 million, maybe even a little less, because it's actually worth more than parity. Because whatever Tether's worth below parity, USD Coin is like above parity at the same like ratio sort of thing. Because I think people are exchanging their Tether for USD Coin, and now USD Coin has about like a 10% of the circulation of Tether, so it's trying to gain, but it's gonna take a while to compete with Tether. And then I could just keep going beyond that, but I'm not going to. There's just a lot of ICO coins that are like down and up today. Like it's a mixed day so far when I'm doing the show. I have a feeling though it's about to be a down day. Bitcoin has just crossed through that $3,700 level right as I'm talking. It's very volatile recently. Really good conditions for BitMEX traders though. On BitMEX they thrive off volatility. For everyone else it's just like, hey, just maybe it's best not to look at the computer today. Jumping into our first real story of the day. So Ethereum is planning an upgrade, and apparently they're doing it in secret. I guess they watched what happened with Bitcoin Cash, and they don't want like everything to be out in the open with their hard fork. So that Ethereum has this thing built in called the difficulty bomb, and it's not really a bomb. It's just like if there's not a hard fork like within a certain amount of time, the difficulty on blocks mining gets so high that the blocks start getting slower and slower rapidly. Like there's exponential increase in the block times, and eventually it brings about the Ethereum Ice Age where Ethereum stops working. I don't know why they programmed that into the code to force hard forks, because they had a working version of Ethereum, they still do, and they programmed something in it to break it, and that forces a hard fork. And hard forks are very dangerous. And I think maybe Ethereum won't do this Ice Age thing anymore. Maybe they'll get rid of it now that they saw what happened to Bitcoin Cash in the fork. But that's just speculation. They have to do the fork, and it's going to be in they're pushing it as late as they can. They're pushing it towards like 2019, probably like middle of 2019, and that'll be the latest they could do it. There'll probably be discussion around them like, oh, we better upgrade, or there's going to be a hard fork. That's probably going to be in the news, and there'll be some contention. It's kind of like when Congress, like they don't give that budget increase, and the whole thing stalls out. That's like a similar thing, except it's like a technological version of that. And they're doing it in secret, supposedly. They said the minutes were published on GitHub after it was done. But they've met multiple times in secret to plan their hard fork. And we'll see what happens with that. Like I said, Ethereum's dropped below $100. Like it dropped below $100 recently, and it's probably heading back there. I wonder where Ethereum's going to be when they finally hard fork it. Like if Ethereum's in a weak position like this and they hard fork, that is not good. And yeah, I'm looking at Ethereum at $109 right now. We might see that $100 level again today. On to our next story. Supposedly, Bitcoin's transaction volume is going to it says Bitcoin set to overtake MasterCard's daily transfer total. That's what it says on this Bitcoin News article. And I don't agree with that. So the transaction volume, when the big crash happened, like we've had multiple crash days, and on one of those days, I saw this myself before this article was written. Bitcoin hit $8 billion on the spot markets. And that's spot markets, though. Well, they're saying this is the transaction volume. Maybe that's different. So they say $8.14 billion of transactions were sent. And by the way, this was because of the crash. Regardless of if this is the spot market volume or the actual transaction volume, they're saying it is the actual transaction volume in the article. That was because it was crashing. And a lot of that was trading between exchanges and like divesting and investing. And Bitcoin does not usually have transaction volume of $8 billion. And it's not going to exceed MasterCard anytime soon. So MasterCard's consistently, like, average all year $12 billion per day. On a really bad day or a really good day for Bitcoin where there's lots of trading, it could approach $10 billion. But it's not going to be, like, on average more than MasterCard. So I don't agree with that article, actually. So, yeah, it's important to, give a real fair look at this based on the actual data. And I guess someone somewhere wrote that Bitcoin's about to exceed MasterCard, and I believe that is hype at this point. as far as transaction volume goes. So I wrote an article on Bitcoin news, Bitcoin adoption milestone, as Ohio accepts Bitcoin for tax bills. So the treasurer of Ohio, Josh Mandel, really likes Bitcoin, and he actually created this page called OhioCrypto.com, and it's well put together. People could pay, it's only for businesses actually, so businesses could pay like all of their taxes with Bitcoin now. And they say they don't accept any other cryptocurrencies yet, but they're looking into it. But for now, they're just doing Bitcoin. And that's like the safest route, I would say. So, yeah, this is the first time a state has accepted Bitcoin for taxes. And they really have an official page for it. And you can pay all of your business taxes with Bitcoin now in Ohio. And that's a great thing for adoption, right? The crypto space has been absolutely focused on price and investment. And I think it's fun to look at price. I think it's interesting to watch as it happens because there's so much like emotion attached to it throughout the space. But what's really important is adoption, and this is a real example of Bitcoin adoption. So this story might be more important than any other story for the past week. A state government adopting Bitcoin for taxes, that's huge. And so one point I want to bring out is how the SEC is regulating Bitcoin as a security. Even though they say Bitcoin's not a security, they regulate its markets like it's a security. The IRS, Internal Revenue Service for taxes, they regulate Bitcoin as property. The Commodity Futures and Trading Commission regulates Bitcoin as a commodity. But now Ohio has implicitly said that like Bitcoin is a currency, and then Mandel explicitly said it. He said, "I do see Bitcoin as a legitimate form of currency." So here we have an official state, well, not a state in the United States officially recognizing Bitcoin as a currency. That's kind of big news. On to our next story. An article has popped up on Bitcoin News about how quantum computing could break Bitcoin's cryptographic hashes. I wrote this months ago. I wrote a few articles about this months ago. But apparently another expert, quote unquote, has said this could happen. So now it's back in the news. And I'm looking for some actual data here. And so they're saying Lockheed Martin has a D-Wave computer and was able to find F-16 source code flaws in 6 weeks, which would otherwise take 6 months. And apparently that's a quantum computer. And so quantum computers are starting to get to the point where they're faster than regular computers. And so yeah, eventually quantum computers are kind of like in their infancy. Like most of the quantum computers are not faster than regular computers. They're different. They use qubits instead of regular bits. And there's actually no info in this article, and probably no info from the experts. I'm not going to blame the writer, but there's probably no info from this expert on anything concrete on what's going on with the actual quantum computing technical specifics. I see that one thing about how a D-Wave computer can process F-16 source code like 10 times faster than some other undisclosed, unspecified computer. Well, that's not very informative. But yes, quantum computing in the future, I'll just talk about what I know. Quantum computing in the future has the potential to be so fast, theoretically, and this might be like 10, 20, 30 years down the line, that Bitcoin's code could be broken. But I think by the time that was happening, they would just institute a new hashing algorithm that is quantum resistant. So by any time there's going to be a quantum computer breaking through Bitcoin, because Bitcoin does not hard fork regularly, but when there's an emergency, and I would say quantum computers destroying Bitcoin's cryptography, which would make Bitcoin go to $0, if that was actually a potential for, because, you know, I'll explain what happens. So, like, let's say quantum computer is magically here that can hack through Bitcoin, then people would just be stealing Bitcoins left and right, and it would lose all of its value and reputation. If that was going to happen, before that happened, they would institute something that's quantum resistant, and it wouldn't happen. So Bitcoin can hard fork. That's the decision of all the miners collectively to hard fork, and also the community, but especially the miners could decide to put a change in to save Bitcoin. So yes, in the future, like 10, 20 years from now, maybe 30 years from now, there could be quantum computing strong enough, because it's really in the infancy now, and it's going to take a long time. Like, Bitcoin's like unfathomable to hack with a normal computer. And right now, quantum computers are maybe just as good as a supercomputer, like the best quantum computer. I'm talking this quantum computer might cost like $1 billion, because it's so hard to make one even that strong as a supercomputer. By the time we have quantum computers that are strong enough to like hack Bitcoin, and we're talking computers way more powerful than we can imagine right now, I think Bitcoin would just be updated, and it wouldn't happen. So that's all we have for you today. on this November 25th, 2018 edition of the BitcoinNews.com Daily Podcast. Come back tomorrow for another exciting episode and go to BitcoinNews.com 24/7 for the full spectrum of Bitcoin, blockchain, and cryptocurrency analysis. This is your host, Space Marine, signing out. Adios, amigos.